Brunch Culture.
We want to talk about faith. We want to talk about politics. We want to talk about race. We want to talk about pop culture. Literally,
Everything
is up for discussion, and that's what Brunch Culture is about.
It's about a thing. Feel real good. Wave your hands in the air and lick 2 shots in the air.
Brunch Culture. Brunch Culture. Brunch Culture. Brunch Culture. She's Lisa V.
And he's Randall Keith.
And this is another episode of Brunch Culture, the weekly show where everything is up for discussion.
It is. And I'm so glad we just came through Irma. I'm so glad that we made it.
Yeah.
I was not fearful until the wind came.
Right?
Like I was like, oh, it's not that bad. People are checking on me. Are you scared? You prepared? I was like, I'm from Florida. We got hurricanes all the time. It's just a category 1 by the time it gets to us. It ain't nothing.
Right?
Man, the wind, it was like I've never heard that. I was like, oh, snap. And then my phone's going off in the middle of the night, losing power.
That was the real struggle on not having service.
When they said, when they that tornado warning, and they was like, a tornado is on your side of town.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, listen, I don't know whether I should lie down, get in the tub. I don't know.
I probably would have been camped out in the tub, for real, though. Real talk, I probably got some sheets and just camped out in the tub.
I don't even know if that's the safest place.
Isn't that what they say? I remember saying,
I know that's what they say, but I'm like, why is that the safest place?
Because I know bathrooms are the safest place because it's like they're in the center of the house. And so, a tornado stuff starts to like fly around and they can get through like windows or like the outer wall. But if you're kind of like in a bathroom, which is typically kind of like in the center of a house, or it like has multiple walls around it, it's tougher. Or it's like has to go through more to get to you, I think so. And then I just remember seeing like as a kid when they would have movies, actually cartoons with tornadoes, like people would always survive in a bathtub. So I don't know.
We used to have tornado drills in school. We had to like go and kneel by the lockers.
Kneel by the lockers. But remember,
I was like, that's stupid because the lockers, can they fall on us?
But no, remember I don't know if you remember, but in 8th grade, so I went to JWJ for 8th grade, and they had at the end of the hallway, it was all glass. And so I remember our class being, my one class, my history class was at the end of the hallway. So we had to walk out and do the drill. And I was like, but why are we out here in this big old glass? Like, won't something just come in here and kill us? Like, I think it's kind of stupid. Like, we shouldn't be in. This don't make no sense.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad we made it. I think I can't imagine what a category 5 is like if that was a 1 and we just got the outer bands. Like we didn't get the eye. So I can't imagine those poor people in the Caribbean, like our thoughts and prayers, because they are like, it's nothing like in Barbuda. Like, did you see those pictures?
Yeah. No, honestly, I kept telling people at work, I'm like, yo, being from Florida, because they were like, I don't understand why people won't evacuate. I was like, look, we're from Florida. We've lived through all kinds of numbers of categories of hurricane. Maybe not a 5, but everything else is kind of like, it's fine. As long as you're not by the water, you good. You ain't really got to worry about it. Like, it's cool. But I saw videos of the like whistling of the wind. And for me, it was like, that's always been a sign that there's a tornado. But I'm watching the video and people are like, no, this whistling, it was consistent. It wasn't like it
all
came
through the night.
Yeah, it wasn't like it came for 5 minutes. So it was like, you really, based on the knowledge of us being like, yo, if you hear whistling, then that means it's a tornado coming. Imagine being in that state all night. I'm like, I can't.
Scared the living daylight.
Right?
I was like, I gave up on sleep. I was like, you know what? I'm not getting no sleep tonight. I'm not.
Even like in Atlanta, they were saying, like yesterday, I was talking to my friend, and she was like, in Atlanta, the wind is really, really bad. Like, it's made me rethink and reevaluate the way that I approach hurricanes. Now I'm like super nervous and like, y'all got to evacuate. Y'all got to find somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to another. But the crazy thing is, everywhere where people went this time, the Irma was there.
Right? Yeah.
Like, people went to Tallahassee. It went to Tallahassee. People went, people was like, we'll go to Atlanta. Now it's going to Atlanta. It's just like, where can I escape? I gotta go to California.
And then you probably have to deal with like a earthquake or something when you get there.
I don't even know how it is for your ground to shake under you. That's a whole nother level of terror.
I was talking about that today, yo, like, because we were talking about where it is to live, and my coworker was like, yeah, I've always, envisioned myself moving to Florida to retire, but now after seeing like the effects of a hurricane and knowing that you guys have to deal with this potentially every year, I don't know if that's the best place to go and retire. I don't want to be old trying to figure out a way to evacuate, and it's like hard for me to move. But I'm like, yo, everywhere you go, like there's some sort of
Midwest
like,
tornadoes.
There's some sort of like Mother Nature is going to affect you in some way. But to me, just mentally, and maybe it's because that's how I was raised, I can't, to me, the ground is safe. The ground has always been safe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can, everything else being up in the air, all this stuff, something coming at you, like, the way to be calm is to get on the ground. If the ground becomes unsafe, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, people talking about stand between a doorway. I'm bigger than the doorway, fool. Like, I'm just not going. That to me scares me probably more than anything.
Yeah, I think my thought is the ground is. That's why my fear of flying, but I have to fly all the time now.
Right.
But I try to psych myself out and be like, Lisa, you're on the side of a circle. Like, so literally you're standing like sideways if you think about the earth and the universe. So
if that makes sense to you, that don't make no sense to what you just told me. Like, what?
No, what I'm saying is, like, you know where America is on the globe?
Okay.
So we're like, actually, if gravity wasn't present, like if gravity just went like away, we would technically not be on the ground. Okay. This is the thing I like, never mind.
But I'm like, but how does that help you?
Because it's like, I'm not safe really on the ground if gravity isn't present. And since gravity helps the plane, the speed and the way gravity works.
So it's like it's security for you. You feel like, that's, my mind will be like, but since gravity is here and I'm actually in the air, so I'm fighting against gravity to be here anyway. What if I lose this fight? Then gravity is going to pull me down and I'm crash and burn. And I just have to tell myself, like,
I get terrified going up. Like in a plane, takeoff is the most difficult part for me because I saw on Criminal Minds, and I shouldn't base things off Criminal Minds. But Spencer on Criminal Minds, the smart guy, he was like, the probability of something happening mid-flight is very slim because of the pressure and the speed. The greatest risks are the taking off and the landing.
Why would you tell me this, Lisa? Don't tell me. I always think I have it the other way around. The biggest problem is when I'm in the air. Like, now you gonna have me on the plane.
I feel fine when I'm there. I feel like I'm secure when I get up. When I hear that beep, when we hit that altitude and they say you can turn on your Wi-Fi, that's when I feel safe.
That doesn't work for me.
So going up, you're not scared?
No, to me, every time I got on a plane, ever since the first time I flew a plane, which I was like 21, I just always said that this is not real. I look out and it looks fake. And still to this day, I look out, I can sit by the window and look out and watch it from start to finish. Cause in my mind, this all looks fake. This is not real. I didn't grow up being on planes. So this is actually something that's not really real. Although I get from like, Florida to DC in an hour and a half. And it's like, obviously it's real. In my mind, this is all fake.
So it's a Universal Studios simulation ride to you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This is just like all like some film that's changing. And at some point in time, I'm going to end up to where I'm going. It's a whole nother state, a whole nother place. And I know that, and that's fine. But this can't be real to me. And that's what works for me. So I'm going to keep moving on with that. Yeah, we gonna ride that out. But shout out to everybody in Florida and all the other states that had to endure Irma. I pray, that you guys make it through. We pray that you guys make it through and that you guys can get back to life, your day-to-day life, and pray for those people that lost people, because I think there was some fatalities as a result of Irma. So praying for those people that lost them. And when we say praying, because I realize we say that a lot, so I just want to make sure people know we actually do pray for those people. Like, we actually include those people in our prayer for real. Like, now we just saying it, but we like for real do it. So
yeah,
it's not just like we just saying it just to say it. Like, we actually
we have a pre-prayer every show, so
right.
we actually already pray for them.
Exactly. So when we say that, we are actually doing. Because I was listening to one of our shows, and then I listened to another and realized we say praying for them. I was like, people probably be like, they just trying to be politically correct. They not really praying. No, we for real do it for real. like we can. And actually, sometimes those prayers be recorded. Like, not that we'll ever put them out, but if we got receipts, if we needed receipts.
We can't use them because some of those prayers we include in some stuff we really need God to help us. Help us not curse out.
So yeah, we'll have to vet them. If they were ever subpoenaed, we'd be like, look, now this part has nothing to do with evidence to prove that. So cut this out, because sometimes they include folks' names. That we praying for those people, but we're also praying for ourselves when it comes to those people, because sometimes you just be about to get out of pocket. People just push you there, and
you already got out of pocket, so you need God to help you repent and be better.
You're already, me. I'm already comfortable with it, so it's right around the corner. That's really what it is.
Well, I guess maybe Kiki Watt has to do more praying, because her husband. Man, I think that's a bad segue.
That was real bad. I was like, fail. Abandoned ship.
No, that's not right.
Abandoned ship. Maybe she.
Well,
and he was.
Just introduced.
He's like he's a pastor, right? So.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know their life.
He's like a minister.
That's why they have so many kids. Like, some ministers like having a lot of kids. So I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know.
He's like a minister.
I just know Kiki Watt from when she had those songs with what's his name? Avant.
Yeah.
They made some great music together.
Yeah, they do.
But so Kiki Watt gets on Instagram, which I thought I'm not gonna say it's stupid, but I really have an issue with you putting that deep personal information in a 1-minute video on Instagram. But she is pregnant, so maybe she's hormonal, and I just think somebody her age shouldn't do that, or should think through the implications of what that does to invite these many people. But she is on a reality show, so whatever.
Yeah.
But so she announced that her husband is leaving her. She's pregnant with their 8th child. Is it 8th?
I think so. I think it was 8th. Or was it that she was 8 months pregnant? Let's ask Google.
Yeah. So while Randall's finding it out, I'll go ahead and finish. So she told.
How many kids does Kiki Wyatt have? This is really how I get through life, yo. I for real. I just talk to Google just like it's like I'm asking a friend, like, how many kids? And I say stuff like, how many kids does Kiki Wyatt got? And Google figures it out. It's not proper.
I love how smart Google is.
Oh, Google line. It says 2.
No.
This is a lie. No.
But she got a lot. They got a lot. And he's divorcing her, and she's pregnant.
It's her 9th child.
Ooh.
Jesus Christ.
Golly gee Willikers, Batman. We gotta stop at some point. Anyway, he's leaving her. She's distraught. He responds and says it's a toxic situation for both of them, and he doesn't want their kids to grow up in that kind of toxic environment, and he will always love her, but it's just best that he not be with her.
Man.
Yeah, you probably should have figured that out after like the 2nd or 3rd.
Look.
I mean, I know they have kids from separate relationships, and then they have some together. So I don't know at what number we come to the conclusion, because I feel like she's been like, if she is difficult, she's been difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not like you're not used to her being hormonal and pregnant, because you've seen it multiple times. I don't know at what point do you say we should stop having kids, period, because we don't have our stuff together as a couple.
Right.
That would seem the most logical thing. Listen, I've never been married, so I don't know. Never had a kid, so I don't know. But it just seems
You got logic, though. You got logic. And logic can get you a long way.
If we're having a hard time dealing with each other, maybe we shouldn't continue to add people to this equation.
That's about it. It sounds about right to me, sister.
That's what you're thinking too?
Yeah, well, first off, let me say, I don't know. So I watched season 3. I probably shouldn't admit this to nobody, but I watched season 3 of R&B Divas. It's actually really funny. Like, for real. Probably one of the most slept on reality shows because these people are funny. But anyway, yeah, so I watched that, but just watching Keke Wyatt just interact with people in general, especially her husband, but people in general, it's a little, it's a lot. It seems like a lot. And people are like, no, that's really her. Like, she's not putting on. It's like 1 minute she'll kind of be, calm and cool and very rational. And the next minute she'll be like real goofy. And it's like, oh, and then the next minute she'll be kind of like emotional. It's like, oh, what's wrong? And then she'll be kind of angry. And it's like, wait, hold on. We just went through like 3 emotions in like no time. This is the same setting. Y'all got on the same clothes. This seems like a lot. However, I completely agree that old boy should have realized this a long time ago, especially before you got her pregnant with the 9th child. Like, bruh, at this point, you kind of stuck. Like, I don't really know.
That's a lot of child support.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, too. Honestly, even if not for the fear of child support, like, I don't even think it's possible to support that many children.
What does he do?
He's a pastor.
But I mean, like, what kind of pastor? Is it a lot of people there?
What kind of pastor? Is it a lot of people there?
No.
Well, obviously not, because we don't even, nobody knows what this guy does. He was her manager too. He managed her.
So he's dependent on her for finance. So she's not going to get any support.
Oh, crap. I never thought about it.
Because I don't know how many.
This is a baby can do. Jesus.
But I mean, she doesn't have Mary J money. I'm just assuming. So I don't know if it's
the good things is like Keke Wyatt, her voice is insane. So I don't think that she's going to be without, work after she has her kid. And so I'm saying that to say that she can, financially support them. And she has her mom, who's a little loopy too, or seemed that way on the show. Again, I'm basing this all off the show. Than just that one season that I saw. She has a brother too, and her family, she has like good family members. So maybe she'll be, I know she'll be good, but yeah, I can't, I don't know. Like, I feel bad for the situation. Obviously, like, it's a breakup of a marriage and a commitment. And, obviously at some point in time, you guys were really in love, but I don't really know if just watching the show, it just kind of seemed like it was just not really the most functional. Like, he would get upset. He seemed like one of those dudes that's kind of like, fee, fi, fo, fum, I'm the man, get me rum type thing. And she seemed kind of like, oh, well, no, I do what I want to do. And this is Kiki's world. And, and it was like, how is this working? But I guess, like, y'all balance each other out. And now it's kind of like, well, I'm not sure. Maybe
you really got to know people before you marry them. Like, you really got to spend time to try to get to probe and see if it'll be a good fit.
I was going to say, what's scary is, at this point, I feel like I keep going back to square one. Like, I don't even know what's enough at this point. Like, no, after you, and I guess it's the best segue than any, but after you told me about the guy that stabbed his wife, like
Matthew Phelps.
Yeah, it was kind of like,
yep, a preacher in training, young preacher in training, 28. The girl was 29. He had a crush on her in middle school. He stumbled upon her on Instagram, reached out to slide into a DM. They was dating for 2 years. They got engaged, got married last November.
Like, she checked all the boxes, yo.
And he stabbed her in her sleep and didn't realize he did it because he said he woke up thinking that he was stabbing her in a dream, which I parked there because I'm like, we shouldn't be dreaming about killing me. That's a like that. That should never happen. Like,
Yeah, like,
and even then, he should be like, if he is having a dream and fake stabbing her, where did the knife come from? Were you sleeping with the knife? Did you go get it while you sleepwalk? Like, it's so many unanswered questions. And this poor girl, her friend was like, we just FaceTimed last night. Everything was fine. We were laughing and joking. And I get the call that my friend is there. I'm like, that is unbelievable.
yeah, that whole thing is so weird. So I told you, like, I know, I'm familiar with people sleepwalking. Like, I've done it before. And so, like, I don't know. It hasn't been anything like that. We're going to, like, pick up objects and things like that. Like, that seems a bit of a stretch. I'm sure, there's some logic to it. And I don't ever wish or want to be in a situation like that. I just think overall, if you think about it, it's kind of like, yo, she kind of checked the box, right? She found, like, a good saved guy, and, like,
She was a Sunday school teacher.
yeah. And so it's kind of like you're checking the box and doing everything right, and then like he killed you. Like, that's a
While
level
you
of
sleep?
yeah. And sleeping, that's your most vulnerable time. Like, you're not cognizant of what's going on. And if for anything, you would think the person that you're with and married to would be your protection and not your demise. Like, that is, yeah, there's a lot of things. So I was actually having a conversation with my friend as I was driving to the office this morning. And I was kind of like, so I just feel like maybe having access to all of this information in the world about marriages and how they go wrong,
It makes you not want to get one.
it does. It's not the most motivating thing. I can be honest. It's just not the most motivating thing in the world.
It is when like when you see couples and you're like, oh, okay. And my grandparents, my parents, but you like, that's like a once in an attempt good that I've seen.
What
like,
they say, it seems 1 in a million to me. What was it? They said at the iPhone event today, it was 1 in a million chance. That's what I'm knocking on. 1 in a
and
million.
then you think this generation, you just like, I don't know. It's just different. You start thinking it's just different for us and our age group. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's so many factors. Like that really with the guy killing his wife in his sleep, it really made me just not motivated at all to say I do at least.
right. That's just, I don't.
That's a whole nother level of scary because you just married me, so we ain't even had time to go through the rough patch. We still was in the honeymoon, and on her Instagram, it's like the best thing that's ever happened to me. Thank you, God, for sending me this husband. It's like, do you know, just in a couple months, he about to kill you, like in your sleep, like.
Yeah, I can't even think about that because I'm really gonna get scarred. Like, honestly, pondering on it, I just start getting scarred, and I just like, I just want to sleep in the bed by myself. We gonna have. I always say
And
that,
lock your door,
right? I'm always like, yo, when I get married, we gotta have separate bathrooms because I'm not like I need my peace and quiet, but. I think we gonna have to have separate rooms too. Like, we just meeting up to consummate the thing, and then all right, I'll let you in the morning. FaceTime me while you're there. Lock my door, but you can FaceTime me though, because
it only locks from the inside.
Exactly, and I'm gonna have like 3 deadbolt locks. Like, I'm back home. Like, we got a few extra locks that only I got the key. I'm having an alarm system on my room just in case. Like, that's the kind of stuff.
Friends be like, aren't you extreme? Hey, I'm living. Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Stuff is real crazy out
I'm
here.
living.
Real crazy out here.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to make it. This is kind of off subject, but I really wanted some Chipotle queso today. The rollout was September 12th. I went, and Chipotle is still closed because of Irma. So Irma is hindering me from queso.
Oh, I was going to say, why you didn't get it? Because it came out today, right?
Yeah.
Have you had it before?
No, because it's rolled out. This is the first time. They had it at their New York tasting center or whatever.
Okay. Because I knew that it was like in some places. So I just didn't know if you had it before.
They were doing like a pre-run for it, I guess, hot spots.
Y'all still on Chipotle though. More power to y'all. I
I
was
kind of let it go, but I just wanted the queso looked so good, and most people make queso with processed cheese, so Chipotle is priding themselves on not making it with processed cheese because they're on that whole healthy, local people kick.
cool. I think is after the first scare, and then they sent the little free burrito thing, and I was like, you know what, everybody deserves a second chance. Once they hit me with that, the meat was bad in like Sterling, Virginia area, and that's like not far from me. I was like,
Yeah, a lot of people got sick there. They said it was the employee who was sick that was making everybody sick, but I was like,
after that, I'm
makes
just
sense.
kind of like, I'm good, yo. I think, I feel like God sends me signs, right? And I got enough signs. I was just kind of like, I think I'm all the way good. So I don't mind going. I might get a good, medium-sized drink, fountain drink and make it happen. I might even eat a couple chips. But other than that, I think I'm good on Chipotle. And I feel the same way about the iPhone 10.
That facial recognition, those animojis.
It's real cool. It sounds great. I was real nervous, so I didn't watch. All right, so I'm gonna give y'all the story. I'm gonna make it real fast. So everybody knows when it comes to Apple announcements, I block my calendar. This is the time, my work calendar. I'm going to have lunch during this time. I might even take a couple hours of leave so that I can make sure I can watch this whole thing because it's exciting for me. It's real exciting. It's kind of like, so nothing gives me the feeling of like, remember how you was a kid and you was like real excited about Christmas? Mm-hmm. As an adult, nothing really gives me that feeling, but the closest thing that comes to that is like an Apple announcement. Cause I feel like, this is cool. Like I want to see the features and all this other stuff, right? I geek out. So I was like, yeah, I'm on this thing. I'm about to do it. Get to the office today. There's a calendar invite for a meeting. The meeting is from 1 o'clock to 1:30. Of course, the event starts Eastern time at 1 o'clock. Well, the meeting actually runs over to like 2:15. So I'm livid at this point. Why I gotta be here? We could have talked about this later. Why couldn't we have talked about this morning? We could have talked about it before lunch. You could have shot me an email. Like we could have done something else instead of having this meeting. Anyway, so I go and I catch like the last half of the meeting. I see the actual unveiling of the iPhone 10, and it's basically all of the stuff that we expected with the rumors. I'm thinking that is cool. Two things that killed me. The Face ID, which to me is just very creepy. I feel like I'm giving my phone permission to watch me every time I pick it up. And sure, there's a possibility it could be doing it now, but it's just real weird. And then on top of that, the fact that this phone is going to cost $11.49 for the version that I want. 256. It only comes in two configurations of memory, 64 gigabyte, which at this point, nobody's using 64 gigabytes that is actually using their phone to me, and 256 gigabytes. That's going to be $11.49. Plus I got to pay $199 for Apple Care. So now we're $200, $11.49, $13.49 plus taxes. I'm about to pay like $1,500 for this
phone. That's more than is that more than a MacBook?
Yeah. It's wow. So it's like, I don't really know if this is what I want to be doing. So yeah, I think I'm good, but I think it's great. Apple always gets me excited. Love the event.
Get a watch though.
You say what?
I bet you get that new watch.
So, it's so bad. It's so, literally everybody has their things. And that's how I rationalize it. Everybody got their things. Some people like, hair. Some people like cars. Some people like I like gadgets, and specifically Apple gadgets. I just got this Series 2 watch this year. I don't even think my watch is 6 months old. But once I saw that this watch has the ability to like have standalone cellular data, I was like, so, how much it cost that? I feel like that's probably going to be my birthday gift. I feel like I can do that because I deserve it for my birthday, right?
Yeah, that's what we tell ourselves when we want to justify. We deserve it.
Yeah. I don't
I saw
gifts.
I saw a hilarious meme about facial recognition and women with makeup. And it was like,
Oh,
what is the phone going to do when you take off your makeup? And I was like, dang. But for real though, like the way you could contour, like the makeup, and like you can literally look like a different person. Like it might be problematic if you got facial recognition and the way you do your makeup is.
how does that work with people like plastic surgery being a big deal too? Like, is it? I'm imagining it's not going.
But I mean, you can always. I'm pretty sure you could probably change it. But I feel like with plastic surgery, it'll be easier because you're gonna look that way every day. Like if you get a nose change, you're gonna look.
That's
like
true.
you have to
Okay.
set- If you got makeup that you change every day, one day you looking like Rihanna, next day you looking like Beyonce. Like it might throw it off.
That's true.
So
It's the whole thing is interesting. I think it's cool, but for other people, I think it's cool for other people. It ain't
you
cool
don't
for
look
me.
at people do it, but you don't want to.
Yeah, I would love to see you do
Yeah,
it.
I'm good with a thumbprint.
Yeah, I think because it took me a while to get that. Apple introduced that in 2013. I didn't adopt it probably until 2015.
Oh, I love it. I love the way, especially apps and your banking app and just important apps, and you can just use your thumb. It's like so quick.
Yeah, I used to, I just refused to do it until like 2015 is when I saw people doing it. I was like, I guess I can try it. And now I'm like, I live by it. I'm like, okay, this is great. The facial thing, I just, and I understand, like I had a friend that explained to me that the security is the same way as Touch ID and it's stored locally on your phone and it's next to impossible for it to be, for somebody to get into it. It's stored completely different. Nothing, it's not sent anywhere. I get all of that and all that sounds real good. It sounds great. But the fact that I just don't know. Now the animojis are cool, but I keep telling myself, so how often, real talk, am I going to use that for real?
Yeah, because I don't even use GIFs that much, depending on like the conversation. If I'm in a rush to have to go search for one, like I could just put a like laughing emoji.
Yeah, I just think about, there's a lot of features that I'm like, this is cool and I can see it being fun, but I'm quite sure I feel like it's cool. It'll be a cool with a couple people. Like I'm not really finna record a bunch of like these videos to send to you like all the time, like maybe just to be funny, but for the most part, I'm not gonna use it. Again, cool feature. I think it'll be great. I'm quite sure every time I go to the Apple store now, I'll probably be playing with that feature and sending it to people while I'm in the store. But I don't know if I'm finna pay like $1,500 for that feature or like, and this other feature is cool. I want to and it's shocking to me. So one of the things that I've been struggling with too, and this is just to be real transparent, is the fact that I love to have the latest and greatest because I am the geek in that way. I want to have the latest and greatest because I want to like play with it and be able to like tell people like, oh, and it can do this. Oh, let me show you this. Like, I like it. Again, this is the toys. This is my toys as an adult. Like, I enjoy it. So I'm battling with the fact that honestly, when this phone comes out, they're going to be people that I'm going to go places with. And usually I'm like, can you just take the picture with my phone? Cause my camera's better. I have the latest iPhone. Well, I'm going to be like, oh, can you take a picture with my phone? And then people are going to be like, oh, well, I have the iPhone 10. And although they have the same cameras, everybody's going to be like, oh, well, it's the 10. So it's a little bit better. Like, let's use this. And I'm going to be like, dang, you're right. I don't
Oh, I thought it was going to have a different camera.
No, the back cameras is two dual 12 megapixel cameras. So it lets in a little bit more like the change in the camera for the 10 and the 8 plus, the changes in the front facing camera. Like the front facing camera on the 10 plus has like portrait mode, just like the back facing camera has now. So that's going to be a little bit better, and it has like 3D depth perception on the 10 versus the 8 plus. But all of that to say that I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. If you're using an iPhone upgrade program, which a lot of people do, so you're paying like month to month on the phone, and then you can get a new phone every year. You're guaranteed to get a new phone every year. Truthfully, the difference with that, the iPhone upgrade program for the what's this guy called, the 8 plus versus the iPhone 10 is only like a $10 difference. So I think one, you're paying $45 a month. The other one, you're paying like $55, $56. So $10, $11 difference. So in that regard, it's not that much. But for me, it's kind of like, you got two strikes against you, yo. Hopefully in the next iteration of this phone, somebody brings back a home button under the screen, and I can, because just the Touch ID. Just give me Touch ID, and I'm cool with that. I'm good with it.
Yeah, somebody said this is going to be hard for cheating people because their partner can just take a picture, just use their phone while they sleep, and you recognize their face. I was like, man, people really be thinking deep about stuff.
But Apple looked out for people though, because you can't do that. Like, you have to be looking at the phone in order for it to unlock.
Oh, your eyes have to be open.
Yeah, so your eyes have to be open. You got to be looking at the phone for the other. So that's, I mean, you know, in that regard, it's cool because you could just take somebody's finger and just put it on there and unlock the phone that way. So it's a cool phone. I just don't think I'm ready for it. I need a little bit more time. Maybe next year I'll adopt it. Maybe I'll feel better once some other people did it. But otherwise, yeah, I'm good.
Well, yeah. We'll see. Well, y'all tell us what y'all think about my mimosas and orange juice. Are y'all getting some queso with me? Y'all getting the I-10? Y'all down with the facial recognition? What do y'all think about Kiki Watt? Do you think we tripping and they should just kind of go with the flow? I still don't know.
What about these 8 kids though? These 9 kids? I'm just playing.
Right. What do y'all think about the guy killing his wife, Matthew Phelps? Because that's so deep. And if you survive Hurricane Irma, if you made it through the storm, let us know. #ChatBC. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back with our main dish. Well, now we're back with our main dish, and today I'm so excited because we're talking about one of my favorite shows that's near and dear to both of our hearts, Insecure. Yes, all 8 episodes. Why is it so short?
It's pretty lame. I thought the pilot season was just 8, and they were going to have 10 for this season because it's season 2, and obviously everybody likes it.
Maybe season 3, and then they teased us on Twitter, and it was like it's gonna be 45 minutes for the finale, and it was 30 minutes then some due north, and I was just like, I don't really care to see that. Did you watch that?
No. So I think because for me, I'll end up watching it on the HBO Go app. I told you I got HBO for free from my cell phone, right? This is like complete aside. So anyway, I watched it on there, and they didn't have that part on there.
Oh wow, I had HBO Go. That's how I watch it, and I use my friends.
Don't you ain't supposed to put it out there. You're supposed to be like, I got it the legit way. Yeah, that's what you gotta say.
Okay.
She's like, yeah, okay, I'll remember for next time.
But yeah, so I was watching on HBO Go, and yeah, that Due North came on. I was just like, because it came on after the credits. So did you watch like after the credits?
Oh, that's probably what it is then. I didn't watch it after the credits.
Because I was like, y'all said it was going to be 45 minutes. And why is it, you know how you can see how much time? So I'm like, what's going to come on? The wind down is not usually that long. So I'm trying to figure out. And then it was like due north. And I'm like, listen, when y'all tell me 45 minutes, I'm expecting 45 minutes of Insecure, not 30 minutes and 10 minutes of due north. Y'all could have kept that.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to watch Due North.
I hate slavery. That was like, what? You remember that line when they was watching the finale?
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh okay. Like, I don't even know why they had that show in there, but whatever.
I think the whole point behind it, not to get too far off topic, but I think the whole point behind it is to kind of poke fun. Because you know, a lot of people feel like they make too many slavery movies, and like it's like I think it's like the irony of them being so into slavery, and it's like we're watching this and we like really into it, but truth be told, we actually don't like it. I think that's what I've gotten, because people that I know that say that they feel like it's so many slavery movies and we're always getting movies about slavery. They actually think that is really funny, them watching Due North. So I was like, maybe that's what they were going for.
I never thought about it like that, but makes sense. So let's dive into it, because we've been talking about this. I cut you off 2 weeks ago when you were talking about Lawrence and you tried to shade Molly and Issa, and I moved to another subject because I said this was going to be, you said we'll talk about it now. And so this is your time to get it all out.
I mean, I feel like, well, let me start off by saying that I enjoy the show. Everybody knows that I enjoy the show. One of the things I love about the show is I just enjoy the fact that the characters are real and they're very like lost and confused in the ways that we're lost and confused all the time. We have like our professional lives together. For the most part, I feel like most of us have our professional lives together. And, in the social department, it's always like, I don't want to say chaotic, but it's not perfect. It's not as like picture perfect, if you will. I'll say that. It's not as picture perfect as like our career is. Even people that are in relationships, like in the show, was it Tiffany and what's the guy named Derek?
Mm-hmm. The bourgeois.
Yeah. Their relationship is even, you see that while they have the quote unquote perfect relationship, it's still it's a lot of stuff we don't know. They allude to a lot of stuff. You see, it's like real, like, it's like, this is a little sketch. So it's, it's true to life. I feel like it's true to life. Anybody that anybody that it makes things like complicated and that's true. That's to how we are. So however, I think that the one thing that it was it's genius for them to do it, but it like irks me is Molly's character and Issa's character. So I feel like a lot of times when we have discussions about the flaws of the characters and the stuff that people doing, a lot of people, and I'm not gonna, call out a specific group of people. I'm just gonna say a lot of people. A lot of people seem to always want to point the finger at Lawrence and say how horrible he is, of, his character is so messed up. Even, oh boy, what's his name? Daniel, even say like Daniel was messed up for, the episode before the last. And nobody really looks at Molly and Issa and what they're doing and point the finger at them and say like, yo, this is a problem. What y'all doing is not, y'all got some flaws too. Like you bear some responsibility in this. And so people will be like, oh yeah, well, I agree that Issa is wrong, but Lawrence ain't have a job for 2 years. And it'll be like, but guys, I just think that, or Lawrence is out here, he need to mend. He need to heal before he moves on. He an F boy because he hasn't healed. And it's like, well, Issa hasn't healed either. She's out here like smashing dudes that's stealing her Wi-Fi for free.
That was so funny.
Right?
In the finale, when he was like, oh, you moving? I've been using your Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
What?
Not like I'm gonna miss you. Not like, hopefully you can still come over and we can get it in. I just been using your Wi-Fi and I just think that, yeah. So to me, that's a little, that's probably the thing that I get frustrated with most, is I feel like we don't talk about all of these characters from a fair space of acknowledging and really not only acknowledging, but talking about the ills of all of the characters, because none of the characters are perfect. Honestly, I truthfully think the only character that is quote unquote perfect is Kelly.
Mm-hmm. She's hilarious.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I think she's perfect. But I feel like Kelly has it together. Like, yeah,
she's like the realest, most honest person on the show. I feel like that's probably
you can't even argue with her. Although, like, yeah, of course she's the friend that's saying stuff that's like out of turn, but it's still like, yeah, I know for sure Kelly is. She real. Like, I like it. I can't be mad at her.
Pack up my valuables. And she's like, what valuables? Girl, you don't got nothing.
Right.
What are you talking about? What did she say? You can't afford that? Did she tell her?
Oh, yeah, when she said she was like, Issa said she wanted to live on her own. And she was like, bitch, where? Like, where that's gonna be at? She's like, you got no money. Like, you broke. And it was like, that was real, but truth be told, you kind of need a friend to be honest. Be like, look, you got to be honest. You ain't staying nowhere, here. That's just real. You need friends.
Gentrification. Yep. She like, listen, gentrification and took over. I would. That was funny. You know how they changed Inglewood to
Oh yeah,
Iwood?
to I would. I was like, wait, I would. I don't remember that. I do remember that. Yeah.
And so I think she was just keeping it real. But I mean, going back to your Molly point, like I'm critical of the Molly's behavior. I think she makes dumb decisions, but I still like her as a character, most because I feel like she's a good friend. That's what I like about Molly. I think she makes bad relationship decisions, but I think she's a good friend. And that's what I appreciate about her.
Yeah, I can give you that, but I still think you got to talk about like how jacked up she is. You know, like I mean, yeah, she's a good friend, but like that's what the show is about. Like they're best friends, so you're supposed to be a good friend. But like, I think the thing that frustrates me with Molly's character is she's not being honest with herself, and that's true to life, right? She
overreacted with her parents, though. I was just
I don't understand. I realize but you know, because of my upbringing, I'm really insensitive to all that kind of stuff in general. And people are like, oh, I'm just so hurt and broken. I'm like, I mean, join the club. It is what it is. You gotta move on. Like, you can't be around here mad at whatever.
I feel like I get that she was hurt, but just the extreme she went, like, it was just like real, like, all the way left.
To me,
like,
she was on some truly like spoiled child tip. That's what she was on. Like, I'm not talking to my parents. Like, my mom is calling and I'm ignoring her calls because she didn't tell me that my dad, no, not even she didn't tell me, because my dad cheated on her and she stayed, is what she said.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Don't.
And then her solution to that was sleeping with somebody that was married.
Yeah, under the premise that he's in an open marriage, but then
I think you're lying about that.
You know, every girl that I talk to says that. I don't.
Like when they got together in the bathroom, he looked like he was trying to protect himself, and I felt like if they were, it wouldn't have been if his wife knew, he wouldn't have told her to like stay back, you know.
But the thing is, I think that they might be in open marriage, but I don't think that his wife knows that she is somebody that he's sleeping with. They're open marriage. So my understanding of what like open relationships are in general is that we have a conversation if you're going to go be with somebody and you kind of run that person by me, so I'm aware, and you go do what you do. Like, I don't think that she's aware. I think she's probably cool with the fact that, you know, it is what it is. You got an itch, go scratch it. But you got to kind of let me know what that itch is. And the fact that her and Molly have like history and they're in like opposing sororities or not opposing sororities, but they're in different sororities, like, and they rival each other and all this other stuff. I think that part that he's maybe being dishonest about. But in that same regard, I just look at Molly and like how uncomfortable she was at the dinner and how like she seems to be bothered by the interactions that they have and the fact that he is only coming over. He does really only want her in a sexual way. It's kind of like, well, he's not bad, because I had a conversation with my friend and she was saying, she just kept talking about how horrible he is and his character that's messed up and he's lying. It's like, honestly, I don't necessarily think that his character is that bad, because he's telling her what it is from jump. And even if she was like, well, he's probably lying about something, I'm like, even if he is, at what point in time do we hold her responsible for her own happiness? At what point? Because he's not committed to her. Obviously, he's married to somebody else. So at the end of the day, you are going to be second to her. Like, no matter how many times we smash, 17 times in 4 days, that's cool. But I'm still not committed to you at the end of the day. So whatever happens in the mix of this, you're a casualty, and you can't really blame me or point the finger at me, because I don't really have any loyalty, quote unquote, to you in this space. And maybe as a friend, because we've known each other all our lives, but at the end of the day, now I got a wife, and I just, in the same way that he left her in the hotel room and was like, I'll see you next week because I gotta go let her in. At that point, you should have really been like, dang, this is not what I want.
I think she realized it, but she's stuck between from him being familiar to her, like her homie, and I think it's a sense of comfort and safety because she's known him, but she's put herself in a horrible situation and made a horrible decision.
Yeah, all right. I mean, if that's what makes sense. I just think that the one thing that I'd like to see is when we have a conversation about the show, or we have a conversation about the characters, is that we discuss, the ills or the flaws of her and Issa's character a bit more, because I feel like we have a tendency, or people have a tendency, to kind of overlook those because they are the protagonists in the show. The show is essentially about Issa, and of course that's her best friend. So it truly is about the two of them and their experience. And I feel like sometimes we get lost in that storytelling and we don't really look at them and see how, some of their characteristics, while they're good people and they have, we can empathize with them more than we can empathize with anybody else. They also have problems. I feel like looking at the one thing that I can say that I like about the way that they've written Molly's character is she does so much stuff. So you talk about her like on the last couple episodes or last few episodes with like her job and her doing all this stuff to excel in her career and realizing that, you know what, she has a white male counterpart that is making more money than her. And so she's kind of at this like crossroad of what should I do? She goes out in this space and she starts to interview. She gets these offers. She's like, oh, so I'm going to take these offers and I'm going to put it back in their face and they're going to have to, give me something. And then they slide your girl a certificate. Like,
yeah, that was like,
it was real low, right? But I feel like that's a moment that everybody, male, like man, woman, whatever, like everybody can identify with that and be like, yo, like I've been, whether it's my professional career or just something, I know that I'm excelling and I'm doing really well, and not that I'm doing it for the recognition, but I'm not getting my just due, and I know somebody else that's not doing half of the work that I'm doing and that's being celebrated. Like you identify with that and you like, yo, I'm in this space, like I get it, like I 100% I can relate. It's cool. So I love the fact that they did that. And then she has this part of her that's kind of like, yo, this is some real, like, I disagree. I think she's stupid. Like, I just feel like she shouldn't be doing it. But the show, the way that they wrote the characters, like you identify with her in the most universal way possible. And then you have to also swallow the fact that she has this part of her that is curbing dudes that are, qualified dudes, right? Like she's like,
L'Oreal.
Yeah, L'Oreal. Like he's.
Look, we don't even know his name in the show. Isn't it so bad?
Yeah, it's real.
Is it Kevin?
We keep trying to give somebody in the show the name Kevin. Y'all tell us whose name in Insecure is Kevin, because obviously we don't know. Yesterday we spent like 45 minutes trying to figure out who's Kevin, and neither one of us can come up with it. But yeah, like so she curbs his character. She curbs the guy that plays Randall in This Is Us. I forget the actor's name, but she curbs his character as well. He was a little kind of like goofy. But it's kind of like all of the things that she says that like she wants, she curbs it in these people because she doesn't have this quote unquote feeling, but she has that quote unquote feeling about somebody that's already married to somebody else, and that she's putting herself in a situation to be a side chick. And it's all of these layers of complications that I feel like, because you identify with Molly in the most universal way, and then having to swallow those things, I feel like it makes us kind of like put a mirror in our face and check ourselves and say, okay, so in what areas in my life am I doing really good, and what areas am I kind of like sticking my foot in my own mouth and having these problems? If you have the conversation about it, which I don't feel like a lot of people really have the conversation about it, but I feel like if you do, you can really see that.
You know what's interesting about Molly and this character and how they wrote it? They flipped the norms, the stereotypes on its head. So Molly comes from the 2-parent home with receiving all this love, and aside from what she didn't know about the affair till now. And so the stereotype is like, this girl should be secure not to be with all these men.
Right.
Right. So they flip it on its head. I thought that was very interesting how they did that.
Yeah.
I think that's smart because it takes away the stereotypes for people and how they behave based on their environment. Because some people go completely different from the expectation of the situation.
Yeah, it honestly, it makes, again, it makes you truly understand the complexity of people. I feel like sometimes we can kind of get into a norm of expecting certain people to be a certain way based on their upbringing. And that's true. That's honestly, it doesn't hold true for everybody, right? So everybody from a 2-parent home is not going to have the best sense of what a relationship is, the best sense of, they're not going to act appropriately all the time. And I feel like in so many cases, specifically with Molly, like you just mentioned, it really does turn it on its head and then make you, when you start to think about it and talk about it, it really and truly makes you say like, okay, so I can't approach people from this type of environment. Or for those of us that be like, you know what? I remember there was, I saw somebody post that like they would not date. It was a girl saying she wouldn't date a guy that wasn't raised with his dad. And she went into like this whole list of reasons of like why she wouldn't do it. And I was just kind of like, what does that even mean, yo? Like, I feel like you can't, you can never really like generalize anything for anybody because there are people that don't fit that. And like, if you move in terms of stereotypes, then you set yourself up for failure because what life, I believe life always does is when you operate in that space, you end up meeting the exception and then you end up being really scorned and jacked up based on the exception because you went in not seeing the things that you should have saw before based on you having this mindset that like, this is how things are going to be. So I feel like they really are challenging that. They really do challenge that with Molly's character because yeah, she has even in terms of like her siblings, right? So like her brothers
married to a stripper,
right? You know what I'm saying? And like the other brothers like staying just chilling at the parents' house. So it's like,
and don't even have a driver's license.
Yeah, it's like, like y'all definitely aren't meeting these stereotypes because she's an attorney. She's raised in a 2-parent home. They seem to be at least middle class. I don't understand like what the problem is. Wow.
So yeah, I love that they do that because it gives that multiple layers. Like you said, it takes that whole stereotype out of it because I think when you're enamored with data, sometimes you can consume data and start seeing people as a number and not seeing them as a person. Right. And not realizing people have to make their own individual decisions no matter what background. Now, some decisions may be harder on people because they've had to overcome different things. But sometimes the people who haven't had to overcome don't have the keenness to make better decisions.
Exactly.
And so you have to kind of navigate that person to person. And so I think that's really, really what or something that we could pull from the show. Issa, I think this whole situation, when I think about the finale and how it ended, I was emotionally on a roller coaster at the end with that daydream when Lawrence proposed and then they go into this thing and she's seeing how her life could have been if they stayed together. Yeah. I was like, oh, and then they like tell each other they love each other and they leave. And I was like, oh, y'all not gonna get back together? And I was really sad about that. I was like, hey, I feel like shedding a tear. But it's kind of like it seemed like both of them were okay with parting on that way. And then when she got the friend request, she was like happy, but it wasn't like, it seemed like a happiness, like we can rebuild as a friend. I know we can't go there again. Right.
And so I have a question for you. So what put you on the emotional roller coaster when it came to the montage of what could have been?
'Cause I was so hopeful for them. Like, I wanted them to get back together.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm a sucker for reconciliation anyway. Just me as a person. Mm-hmm. So that, and then seeing like, oh man, that's crazy. And then they just go their separate ways. So I was hopeful. And I think, yeah, that was like the part that was like, oh man, I really wanted y'all to make it. Because y'all could have been in that. I wanted them to move. I didn't understand why that daydream had to be in that same apartment. But whatever. I was just like, this is what we gotta progress.
That's what made it more real, though. That's why I actually thought it was real when it was happening. I thought it was real because of that.
I was like, what, can we move in his apartment? Because that was nicer.
In my mind, I was like, oh, it's kind of accelerating on the last show. So when it comes back, it'll be her life now as a wife. Like, she's done what it is to be single. Now it'll be like her, being insecure, her life as a wife, which I thought was going to be dope. And then I realized it wasn't.
Yeah. And she just gone back to Daniel.
Yeah.
Old faithful.
Yeah. But so in light of that, I think that, for that scene, since we brought that up, for that scene for me, I think that was probably the most powerful point in this season, the conversation between Lawrence and Issa. And I think that because we typically there's a lot of stereotypes out there, right? So there's a lot of stereotypes about, black women being angry and just always going off and just, making these careless, rash decisions when it comes to men. And there's stereotypes for men of being, black men always abandon situations and don't want to deal with them, and immature, and they boys, and they need to grow up and be men, and yada yada yada. And it's all of these negative things. And so I feel like at times those negative perceptions that we have of each other prevent us from being able to really have conversations and reconcile in times that we should. I feel like a lot of what I've learned, especially when it comes to relationships, I feel like a lot of times we're saying the same things, we're just coming from different vantage points, right? So we have the same end goal, and a lot of times in situations we want the same things, we're just coming from different perspectives, and we're speaking a different language, quote unquote, but we essentially want the same thing. And so because we also approach them with emotions of being hurt and stuff like that, we just miss what the other person is saying. And I feel like that moment of them having a conversation really showed something that was something that I've known to be real, and something that was powerful. Like, they both were able to get to a point to say, like, you know what, I'm going to stop pointing the finger at you, and I'm going to actually start to consider and think about what I could have done better. In the midst of you hurting me, right? So in the midst of you cheating on me, I also recognize and realize, I get into this space in my own mind where I have these expectations of how things are supposed to go. When they don't go that way, I get really jacked up. As a result of that, I jack other people up because of these failed expectations, and it sends me into this like downward spiral of depression. But I'm expecting everybody to like be there for me and do stuff that's right for me. And it's like, watching it, that's true. Like, we've seen that, right? We've seen like, he's supposed to be this dude, and he operates in this space where he is this certain type of guy, and then he falls, and we see how people become casualties as a result of that, of Issa, Tasha, Aparna, like, even like his friends. Like, we see how that happens, right? And then Issa to be like, you know what? Like, I was supposed to be there for you. Like, that was my job. And I realized that I didn't do that. And that to me was like, it was huge too, because it was like, really, the common notion in this situation is that you had a right to do what you did, right? Because he spent 2 years on your couch doing nothing, and now he finally got it together. So of course you had a wondering eye, and people are like, oh yeah, like that makes sense, it was probably wrong, but what he did that put her there, and yada yada yada. And then for her to acknowledge, like, honestly, as your girlfriend, that's what I should have been doing, right? And I feel that way. And not saying that every girlfriend is supposed to be doing that, but truly her saying, like, for me as a person, for who I am, the relationship that we had, I should have been doing that, and I didn't. And then to even be like, and it was wrong what I did. Like, I should not have cheated. And like, to be able to say those things, to cry and still be like, I love you. Like, I feel like it just shows an image that we're capable. And not only it shows like, we're capable because this don't happen, truthfully, and it's been my experience that's reality. Like, I feel like those type of things are more reality than we know. Hell, I say this and I think about just 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with my ex-girlfriend, and it was just kind of like, yo, I'm really glad that we're in this space, you know, and like in this space of I can talk to you all things considered, and you can talk to me all things considered that happened in the past, and you can still be extremely like supportive, and we can laugh and we can joke, and you know, we can just kind of have like a normal conversation, understanding like, you know, certain boundaries and things like that. Like, you know, I'm not going to say something that's going to be a completely offensive or be like, oh yeah, because remember you used to be this way. Like, that's pointless. But still being able to just have a conversation about like, here's where we are. Here's what I know about you. Here's what I want to see for you. And like, I feel like they did that, and they put that on prime time television. Like, it was just, that to me was just super powerful, because I feel like it shows that we can do all of this stuff and be really messed up and make dumb decisions and have, you know, threesomes with crackheads and still be able to come to a place where you become an adult about it and be like, yo, I was wrong. And like, as opposed to looking at you and blaming you for everything that was wrong, I'm looking at myself now and saying, you know what? Here is my responsibility in the demise of our relationship. And even with understanding that, I still love you, yo. Like, I have love for you. And yeah, I in order for me, it's okay for me to have this love and still move on. And I'm not moving on boldly like, yeah, I know this over. I know I'm never going to be with you. But it's like, no, like, I love you. And you see that I'm kind of lingering because it's hard to walk away. But what I can tell you without any embarrassment or shame is that I love you. And I think that's truthfully how things are. Like, no matter how mad in the breakup you get with the other person, one of the reasons that you're so mad and so upset is because you love them. And so just being able to like acknowledge that point is huge. And so to me, that was, I think that was like, to me, that was truly like the highlight of the whole season. Everything else that happened for me was just like, this point was all that mattered.
Yeah, and I love how they show the two conversations. So in 7, you get them fighting and showing the emotion of them not taking responsibility for their actions and cutting each other with their words. And then in 8, you see them kind of helping heal each other with words that are different when they take responsibility. Right. Like when you're trying to get revenge and when you're trying to get really real healing, reconciliation, your tone has to change. Because, you know, I've been in conversations with friends and dating people, and you know, when you get in the heat of the argument, you start throwing up everything, every failure they had. You didn't do this.
All of them.
I know how to kill people with my tongue. I've done it before. But then if you walk away, maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, months later, years later, you'll be like, you know what? I did some jacked up stuff too. So right. I'm going to take responsibility for what I did. I would like to hear an apology for what you did, but if you don't tell me, that's okay in this moment, because I need to focus on what I can control, and that's myself.
Right.
So I love how they show people, them taking personal responsibility.
Okay.
I think that's the word.
So I feel like we kind of started off and just got into this whole like falling in love with the show all over again, which is cool.
Just went real deep.
Yeah, which is real cool. But like, we got some like more like specific points that I think we should talk about and we should discuss just in general about the show, like not about a specific character or a specific situation, but more so of just like general themes and questions that came up and like how you feel about them. So one of the things that you asked, which I thought was really cool to address during this time, was, is Lawrence a good guy?
You want me to answer that now?
Yeah, go for it.
So I think he is a good guy. Like, I think we talked about this on the show. Sometimes good person with bad moments. Is that what I said? I think that's what I said.
Yeah, I think that was, that's
when that was the 443 episode when we talked about that.
Right.
I think he is somebody that's hurt and doesn't know how to process that hurt. So instead of him like sitting back and reflecting, He just goes from situation to situation to situation, which is the same thing Issa's doing. So they're both doing the exact same thing. They're not dealing with it. They don't deal with it until the last episode in the final minutes is when they kind of, well, Issa starts to deal with it when she throws at stuff. That's when she lets out the anger.
Right.
But they just, both of them go from situation. So I don't think he is a bad guy. I think he's trying to cope with hurt. And everybody copes with hurt in different ways. Some people do it in a healthy way. Some people do it in a not so healthy way. And so I think overall, when I find good guy in the relationship, I think he wanted the best for Issa. He wanted the best for himself. He didn't quite know how to do that when he lost his job. And so he didn't feel empowered. And I think for men, them feeling empowered and having feeling respected is important. And I think somewhere along the line he lost that because, you know, when he was in the kitchen with Aparna, he's like, this is the first time I felt like I was leading something in a while.
Yeah.
And so I think he lost that confidence. And so because of that, he couldn't effectively lead in the relationship. So I think he made bad decisions based on hurt. So I wouldn't call him a bad person overall. I think he's a good guy. But I think a lot of guys that do girls wrong in certain situations, like the Tasha situation, are good men. They just don't know how to process things properly.
That's what I was about to ask you next. So I was going to say specifically when it comes to the Tasha situation, because I feel like that's where a lot of heat comes from, just in general and talking about it, right? So I realized that honestly, throughout this whole season, he's done some stuff that I'm like, I really couldn't defend him with the whole threesome thing. I was like, dang,
yeah,
bro, we've been
that was
like the Lawrence
terrible.
the Lawrence I've really got real quiet during that time, and I'll be, you know, I'm like on the board of directors, and I couldn't say no. It was just like, bro, whatever. But I do like, as you're saying, which I'm surprised to hear you say it because I haven't heard anybody articulate it in that way. That I feel like gives credence to what's going on in his situation, and not saying that, you know, that's kind of the reason that I could say like, yo, I'm a part of the Lawrence Hive, if you will, is because it's like, no, y'all not understanding where this man coming from. Like, that hurt. And it's not saying that every decision that he made is right. It's not saying that he is, you know, Mr. Stand Up, everybody got to follow his lead and how you handle relationships. But truth of the matter is, I feel like and I say this all the time. I always tell my friends this about like people that they date. A person's intentions they bleed through in everything that they do, right? And you can look at a person's intentions and their initial intentions and see, like, get an idea of if that person is good for you or not, or if that person is good for my friend. That's what I look at. I want to look at what your intentions are and how, just in normal activities, right? Not like just when we're all out and hanging out. I want to notice this person's intentions when y'all interact with each other, when y'all have conversations with each other, how they talk about you, how they talk about other people in their lives. If I can see that this person is approaching other people and approaching you and doing things with the intention to be like, hey, I want to be the best that I can for this situation and elevate it, to me, that's like, no, that's a good person. And I feel like prior to all of season 1, right, we saw Lawrence have really good intentions, not execute them the right way, right? But like, he had this dream of an app, and he felt like if I, you know, put everything into it, I can have it. But eventually he got his job at Best Buy to, you know what I'm saying, to try something else. It's like, I have the best intention. So for me, that was like, no, this dude is a solid dude. He's just having a really jacked up moment. And it seemed like nobody else would get that. And that's why I'm glad that you seem to understand it and just to give him the ability to do that. And again, I say this because when it comes to understanding somebody from the other side, women understanding men, again, I'm not saying that it's okay for somebody to be on your couch for 2 years and not have no income. Like, that's a little drastic. Like, you gotta keep it moving because this ain't gonna work. However, I don't think that makes a person a F boy. I don't think that it makes a person horrible. And I also don't think, like, in the way that he handled, like, the Tasha situation, I don't think that he was bad, because I try to truly understand.
You stepping on you dancing on the
Yeah, and because
dancing on the line.
when I say that he's not bad, I'm not saying that he didn't do anything wrong. Like, it was real jacked up, right?
You're saying that what? You're saying that hurt people, when people make decisions out of hurt, there's always casualties.
Exactly. And that's what it is. And it's like, so I can check you in this moment and be like, yo, it's jacked up. I can check you in this moment and be like, yo, that's really messed up. But I'm not going to box you in the space with all of these other dudes that are just intentionally trying to, I don't want to say intentionally trying to hurt people, but intentionally not thinking about not hurting somebody, right? In his mind, in Lawrence's mind, and it's something that I felt like I could relate to, in his mind, not committing to Tasha, not having a title with her, was him saving her, right? Was him not being that dude. Him saying, I slept with my ex, was him not being that dude that's just out here, you know, sleeping with anybody without telling. It's like, no, I want to be upfront. I want to tell you what's going on. And even in terms of him showing up to the family barbecue, talking to my friend, she was like, oh, he's leading her on. And I'm like, I don't think he's trying to lead her on. I think he's trying not to let her down, because she obviously wanted him to go, and she put it out there, and it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't want you to look stupid. And you know, kind of told them that I was going to come, so I'm going to come. Like, yes, it would have been better for him to just stand on his own and be like, yo, I'm not coming because we're not there. But it's like, she also knew that they weren't there. Like, at what point in time do we be like, yo, this was, you know, yeah, he was messed up. He shouldn't have did it. Like, him going, if he agreed to come, he should have just stayed there. Honestly, dipping out, meeting some people and then kind of dipping out and never come back, it makes her look stupid. Like, that was real for real jacked up. However, he kind of told you in multiple ways, like, yo, this ain't what it is. Like, but
I think he had to be more direct. So the thing I have with Lawrence, and the thing I have with men that do this, is the passive nature of men sometimes. Y'all sometimes go with the flow and understand that this person, you can see the signs, has other expectations for the situation. So I feel like at some point you have to, it's not, the responsibility is not solely on men, it's on women too, to understand. We have to understand our feelings and know when to ask questions and be definitive.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying.
So it's on both parts.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. Again, and this is, I'm sure that I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this, because my friend next to cursed me out in saying this, but I was like, look, I get what you're saying, right? And I can accept that, but I can't accept that without putting that same responsibility on Tasha's character. I can't say, yo, he got to be more direct. And it's like, well, she got to be more direct too, or understand that his lack of being direct is also a direct answer to what you, like, you can't say that, oh, well, he didn't say we weren't in a relationship. He didn't say he didn't want to come. Obviously, this guy showed no excitement or interest about coming. Like, okay. And then she's like, and the reason that I know that she recognized that, because she says, oh, well, she was like, oh, well, you don't have to come. And it's like, obviously, you know that you can get, if I tell Lawrence that, yo, you got to be more direct, and you got to realize words mean things, lack of words mean things, and you can see what somebody's doing, you can see where they're going, you got to nip it in the bud in the moment. I got to tell Tasha to do the same thing. I got to look at Lawrence and be like, yo, you see that this girl is trying to make you into a boyfriend or something serious, and you can't do that. Not even that you don't want to do it, you just probably shouldn't do that in that moment. Yo, man up and tell her what's going on, and stop BSing. Yo, if it is just sex, be honest about it just being sex. Tell her that you don't want anything else other than that. Like, I can give you that, but I also got to look at Tasha and be like, all right, baby girl, check this too. You got to realize that this dude is not doing this for you. And you saying like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to ease it in or be a little bit more understanding. If you want a relationship, be like, bruh, I'm looking for a boyfriend. Are you trying to be my boyfriend? No, all right, deuces. Especially after y'all done smashed and y'all keep smashing and you like, oh, well, you can see me for more than just the weekend. Sign number one. Oh boy is not thinking about anything else. Okay, he takes you out. All right, cool. Well, he took you out, and so you start thinking, well, maybe there's a little something else. Well, I want to introduce you to my family. Sign number two. Oh boy,
that was
not
an
really
extreme
interested.
step, though. I'm like, why are we going to family reunion?
Yeah, and so that's my thing is like, I just feel like we got to hold both.
But he
people
agreed
accountable.
to go. So yeah, he should have said, you know what? That's kind of not where I'm at right now. I can't come.
But I think
he should. I think he should have told Aparna
quote unquote
she couldn't come to her
guy,
friend.
But the quote unquote good guy in him didn't want to be. I feel like he didn't want to like be messed up about it and be like, oh, I'm not coming, or no, I don't want to come, because obviously it was something that was important to her. So it's like, well, I don't want to disappoint you.
Or maybe he just doesn't know how to set boundaries.
Which truthfully, that's a whole other like thing that comes out of it in terms of like, yo, setting boundaries is important. And I think it shows how in both situations for men and women, boundaries have to be set. Like if you are dating somebody and talking to somebody and you want a certain outcome and you're not going to get that outcome, or you're not getting that outcome, and it doesn't seem like that person is on that path, you have to set boundaries, because you will get, deadlocked into this space of situationship, which is very common today, and a lot of us do it, and it's extremely comfortable for the avid situationshipper, and it's very uncomfortable for the relationshipper. But truth of the matter is, like, we just want two different things at this point in time, and you kind of hanging around statistically don't really means that I'm going to eventually be a relationshipper, because I just want a situationship.
Yeah, and sometimes people are in situationships for a very long time, and the person peace out and be with somebody they met just randomly.
Yeah. Very true.
Happens every day. So I think, that boundary about what this is important, because I think if he had said, this is when she approached him with the, you could see me, hey, that's not really what I want right now, Yeah. And I don't think he was okay with losing somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so because he wanted somebody to fill that void so he wouldn't have to deal with her. Just like Issa's doing. She wants somebody present. She wants different people present so she won't have to deal with what's really happening with Lawrence.
Right.
So it's very interesting dynamic.
So the other thing I wanted to ask, what do you think, if anything, what do you think the show means for Black millennials? Like, do you feel like it's making a statement for us? Do you feel like it's just entertainment? Do you feel like the show is kind of pivotal and monumental in a sense? Or do you feel like it's just kind of like a show that's like, it's just good for entertainment?
I think it's a mirror to Black millennials, to kind of see ourselves in different positions, in different lights, because I think it covers a lot of different aspects of people and relationships and trying to work through the messiness. And sometimes if you don't see yourself reflected in any type of way on screen, you'll begin to think that your story is unique and that other people aren't dealing with the same stuff. But when you see it and then it opens up conversation like, oh, I know somebody like Molly, or I know somebody like Issa, or I know somebody like Kelly, or I know somebody like, what's the bougie girl? I always forget her name. Tiffany. You start seeing these situations. Now, I don't think in some instances theirs is extreme on certain levels.
Right.
But just even if you can't relate to their relationships, Molly's dating life, you might can relate to her job life, or what she's going through at work,
right,
or what she's going through with her family, or with Issa, just simple things of how her and her brother navigate the funny thing was, she was like, Molly was like, you can stay with me. She was like, I love you too much to stay with you. And it's like, but you going to stay with your brother? It's just, those things, knowing family dynamics and knowing like, yeah, I can live with my brother because I know that we'll get on each other's nerves, but I know we're going to still be siblings after this. If I live with you, we might not be friends after that,
Right.
So just simple dynamics. I think it's relatable, and we need to see multi-layered. People need to see, the culture needs to see multi-layered Black millennials.
Yeah. I 100% agree. So I feel like it's powerful to us in the sense that it's very relatable, right? So we can pick and choose. This is why so many people are talking about it. This is why it's always a trending topic on Twitter when it's on. I feel like everybody, no matter who you are, can get into this show. If you're just around a group of people, it's definitely a brunch conversation that comes up. It's just a hangout party type thing that comes up. Like, people can talk about it because it's all relatable. I think that it's really powerful too, though, because it gives a peek into our culture and our lives without exploiting it. It does it in such a way that there's still a lot of dignity in these people and the things that they do. And you see them, wrestle with certain things in terms of, which we didn't get a chance to talk about, but in terms of, can Black people be racist? And how does that look? And how does it look when we are faced with, a Black person being racist to another group? And how we deal with it, and how we can be very passionate and understand it coming from our way, and really struggle with having to go against it in another way, because we need to get what we want out of it. But it's still done in such a way that it raises a conversation, right? So it makes you understand Issa's position. It also makes you kind of understand the plight of her colleague, her white colleague. And it's like, oh, I kind of I get what you're saying. But then I also feel like if I was in that situation, I'd probably do the same thing. So I feel like it gives other people, honestly, just a peek into who we are in our culture. And I feel like oftentimes we have to be, these pillars of success and perfection because we are educated. We have degrees. We have master's degrees, professional certifications and degrees and all of these things that we're achieving, and we're leaders in our jobs and our organizations. And so I feel like, I remember telling my coworker, I was like, so I feel like if you watch that show, because she said that she watched a couple episodes, and I was like, yeah, I feel like if you watch that show and you have, she said, I think she said she watched maybe a couple episodes from the first season and like some episodes from the second season, but she didn't watch all of it. But I was like, I feel like I can really relate to Lawrence a lot. And then she was like, you're not that guy. And I'm like, yo, I think that because of how I am at work, you have this idea that I'm just like picture perfect. And it's like, nah, I'm kind of jacked up too. As many of us are, you're jacked up as well. But, you expect me to be, quote unquote, the exception to all of these rules, in which, maybe I'm the exception to a number of them, but in some ways I have issues and flaws too. And much like, people from other cultures work through their things or have, certain things that they're accepting of their friends of, or, people in their community. It's like, well, I accept that they do this and I kind of learn to work with it. I feel like it kind of gives people the ability to do that for us, but in a way that we can be proud of, and we're still dignified. So we still are listening to, our ratchet music, and we super educated. And I might have like this, crazy, wild sexual experience, but I'm also like really trying to have this part of my life be wholesome and have some sort of morals. And like, I realized that there was a problem, so I'm never going to do that again because I grew from it. Like, it allows people to see that, yo, they can be multiple things. And so it makes us a mirror, but it also just allows other people to truly get like the humanity of us and realize that, yo, like, how are Black people? Black people are just like all other people. We're just Black and have a dope behind culture with it. Like,
Yeah, and speaking to that, and Molly, thinking about the conversation that Molly, Issa, and Kelly were having about her going to an all black firm and an all white firm, staying at an all white firm, I thought was really interesting because it would seem like she would just like be happy to go with all black people because it's relatable, but it's like she's hesitant because even though it's her skin folk, she don't know like if it's gonna still be a good space. She already know what she got to deal with. She don't know if she necessarily want to go to that space. And then Kelly kind of going back and forth with the pros and cons was hilarious. Especially when she said Tyreek was trying to baptize her at work. That was funny. So, weighing those situations, I think was really, I loved how they did that because those are real situations.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to highlight those conversations.
And we have those conversations and those issues when it comes to even internally, right? So working with a bunch of us or being around a bunch of us, which is not something that I felt like I've never had a problem. And I realize I'm an exception to the rule in the sense that honestly being around a whole bunch of black people, I get real excited because I'm like, oh yes, this is us. This is great. Then I realized that like, all of us aren't my kinfolk, and I was like, oh wait, all y'all don't get it. All right, cool. So it's not the same. But the truth of the matter is, to whatever capacity, we all have or do struggle with this idea, and I think it's something that we have to actively, calm down and not allow to grow. This sense of, well, black people do this, and black people are like this, or just kind of like adopting those negative thoughts about us and saying like, oh, this is what all black people do, instead of just realizing, well, people do these things, people in general. And so you probably feel like all black people do this because you mainly hang around black people. But if you start hanging around some other people, you'll realize they do the same thing. And it's not just
people
like...
are people.
Exactly. People are people. It's not just quote unquote black people because our skin's darker that we just do this. Like, that's not really true. But I feel like, that's a true conversation that we have in terms of, especially in a professional sense. I know for me, in the professional world, I see... When I see another black person, I used to be embarrassed to say it too, but I get really excited in terms of like, hey, I want to connect to you. I want to know you. I want to be, I just kind of want to have like a camaraderie with you. It
almost seems like a safe space.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and not even saying that like it's not situations where like something crazy was going on. So it's like, oh, we got to band together because it's all this craziness. It's like, nah, this is actually, it's a cool environment. I don't have a problem with it. Everybody does what they need to do and is friendly, and then, it's all good. So I'm good here. But I feel like, hey, I see you. I'm excited. You want to know this? I remember talking to a friend that was Asian, and she was talking about how she was like, yeah, Asian people just always gravitate towards each other. We just always do it. And I was like, is that something that's intentional or you just happen? She was like, no, I just feel, she's like, I tend to do it because I feel comfortable. And I feel like you'll understand, even if we don't come from the same place, you'll understand kind of how my parents think, or you'll understand like how just things are. So it's just like, I can probably relate to you more. So that's why I do it. And I'm like, what's so funny is you do that and you feel comfortable in it, and you can say that, and nobody looks at you and says like, that's a problem. Like, oh, you shouldn't, like, why are you thinking that way? You shouldn't do that. That's racist, or that's reverse racism. Nobody says that to you because it's like, it's an expectation that it's okay. You guys have a shared experience or shared culture or similarities that you can relate to. All right. Of course you would do that. But when it comes to us, we're kind of like, nah, we don't want to do it. And I've always felt bad to articulate that. And now I'm like, no, that's not a bad thing. Like, yo, I do want to be connected to you. But I said that to say that I always view people like that. And there was a lady that works in the building that I work in. She works on the same floor with me. I don't work with her directly. I just see her in passing. And I used to always speak to her, and she never spoke back. And I also, like, when new people would come in, she would be introduced. So she would like pass by me not say anything to me and go introduce herself to them. And I was just like, dang, like, this is real. It's kind of weird. Like, you don't say nothing to me. Like, and I go out of my way to try to, run into her just to say like, hey, to try to spark conversation. Cause I'm like, hey, I feel like we should be, I at least want to know who you are. Like, we ain't got to be buddy. If it's organic, it's organic. But I at least feel like I should know who you are. And then I had a conversation with another colleague who was like, no, she's very intentional about making sure that she is not one of those black people that's always congregating with other black people or just talking to black people. And I'm like, well, I talk to everybody else too. Like, I go to lunch with them. I hang out with them. Like, it's not just, I'm just trying to meet black people. But I do go out of my way to try to meet the black people, to just be like, hey, like, you're new in the area. I am too. One of the guys was from Florida. I found out was from Florida. And I'm like, yo, not only are we two young black dudes here, but we from Florida. This cool. Like, let's talk and, whatever. So I just think that's a good thing. And I realize all folks not like that. But I think that's something that we should be able to talk about, right? We should be able to discuss and define where that comes from and why that is. And I'm actually personally really interested in knowing people that do approach other black people in like a professional setting like that. Like, what's your problem with it? Like, why can't you, or why don't you feel the need to do that? I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when I used to work in corporate America, I used to be excited to see black people, especially when it was like a all white setting and it's only a few. It's like a safe haven of relatability.
Yeah. And
then you run into some bad ones, and then you're just like, oh, okay. Well, I'm just gonna deal with anybody who's nice.
Right. Yeah. That's always not good. But I try to be very careful to not like be like, oh, it's just, it's all of us. I just, that term, and I know we're getting off a little bit, but that term just in general, hearing people be like, I hate working with all of us. I hate when so many of us to get together. When we get together, we don't know how to act. Stuff like that just really gets under my skin nowadays. I used to just be like, whatever, but now it's just like, yo, that's not true. Like, that is not true. Like, you cannot do that. Like, when people be like, oh, when you get a bunch of us together, it's always ratchet or it's always ghetto. Truthfully, that's not true. Have you gone to, and I'm only saying this because they're in DC, but have you gone to like a Howard homecoming? Like, that's not true. Everybody's not like that. Everybody's not doing that. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can find that anywhere. If you go to a football game of, heck, what was that one game? It was like a college football game and the team lost and they like flipped over a car and set stuff on fire and all this other stuff. It's like,
they do that a lot.
Yeah. So it's like, but we don't say like, oh, when you get a lot of white people together, they terrorize stuff. Like, that's just not, nobody does that, yo. So why are we doing that? Like, why are we subscribing to this idea that too many black people in one space is a bad thing? I think it's a beautiful thing. Like, I feel like we need to have variety. You do need to have somebody that might be a little loud and a little ratchet or super country or a little ignorant. Like, you need to have that because that represents that person and where they come from or just who they are as a person. There's diversity in that. Like, we all aren't the same. We all, yeah, we shouldn't approach anything. For me, and I despise when I hear people say it, but like, oh, too many of us is a bad thing. It's like, no, it's really not. It can truly be a beautiful thing. I've learned so much about people, yeah, about life and just life experience. I think even like, our friendship, like, we grew up in two different environments. We live two different walks of life, but we connect on so many levels and we understand so many different things. And like, although our life experiences are extremely different, we can like sit down and have a conversation and actually have good fun and have fun talking about, our past, our upbringing and stuff like that. And it's like, I truly don't understand where you're coming from at all. Even now, like when you talk about like, my parents said this, or I talked to my parents about that, I'm like, I can't relate, but I think it's dope. Like, I learned that the diversity in us, and that's a beautiful thing. So when there's a bunch of us, I just think it's equally, if not more beautiful.
Yeah. I personally don't like crowds of any color because I'm an introvert and I don't like to be around a lot of people at one time. It's just overwhelming
And
for
I
me.
can understand that.
But I I don't like you said, I don't like the stereotypes either. And it's funny because I used to speak stereotypes a lot in my conversation, especially growing up. But just as I had to engage with more people, you see like the stereotypes start coming down. Like
Right.
the more you engage with people, you can tell who doesn't engage with people by their their thoughts about people.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Like, oh well, you don't know a lot of people.
Oh, you don't get out much, obviously. And yeah, when you do, it's probably around the same like three people, and you be like, "Oh, my diverse group of friends," and it's real like four people. But anyway, we have been going in on Insecure for a long time, probably about an hour, and we expected this show to be long. So, do you have anything else specifically that you wanted to talk about, or are we good?
No, that's all I got.
Okay.
I'm ready for the new season.
Yes, season 3, we will be on it. Y'all hit us up. Y'all let us know what y'all think about Insecure. This season was amazing. Obviously, we love it. We talked about a lot of things. We dived into a lot of things. What things did we miss? What things that stuck out to you for this season? Of course, obviously, we like to talk about it, so we definitely would love to engage with you guys. Hit us up on Twitter at Brunch Culture and on Instagram at Brunch_Culture, and we will be back for our Toast or Roast. All right, guys, we are back, and it is time for our Toast or Roast. This portion of the show, we like to toast something that we liked for this week, or roast something that, we just over and we hate. So this week I have a toast, and I am going to make it very short and sweet. I want to toast the Hand in Hand telethon that happened on Tuesday, September 12th. The Hand in Hand telethon was put together to help the recovery efforts of Houston. Of course, we all know that Hurricane Harvey took a very, very nasty toll on Houston, and a lot of people were lost everything. Not even specific things, but everything. There's a lot of lost lives, people mentally and emotionally damaged just from having to deal with that. Somebody painted the picture this morning when I was listening to the radio, saying like, imagine the trauma, the children that were in those homes and saw all of that water. Imagine the trauma they're going to experience the next time they hear thunder, or they have to experience just a typical rainstorm, having to be rescued when your entire home was flooded with water and there was wildlife in your house and all of this crazy stuff. It's like, dang, you don't think about that, but that's really it's really serious, and it's real, and it's sad. And so the Hand in Hand telethon actually raised, as of I think they said 1 a.m. On Wednesday, they raised $44 million, and there were celebrities from all over that came and helped out and put out promotions to just get funding for it. And that, to me, that's just amazing. $44 million in one night is incredible for anybody to do. But the other thing that, other reason I want to shout it out is all of those funds are going to a specific organization that focuses on helping those people that don't get as much coverage as the others. So it's really to anybody. And I don't want to say it's just helping like minority people, because that's not true, but it really is. I was listening to Ricky Smiley morning show this morning, and Bun B was on there, rapper Bun B, and he was talking about how those funds are going to the things that you don't think about, right? You don't think about the people that were renters that lost everything, and all of the things that they might need, from something as simple as like toiletries, or a book bag for their kids, or something as large as like, hey, I've completely lost my vehicle. I need a vehicle to get my children around, my family around, and just things like that. Like that money, those monies are going to be going to fill in those gaps in which the larger scale organizations don't really help recover. They're focusing on things like infrastructure, and just kind of like city roads and stuff like that. But this is going to more specific needs to particular families. And so I just think it's amazing. I just want to toast to that effort and everybody that was involved in that effort. I think it's beautiful to see, with so much going on in our country and so much hate all of the time, and having to see, people dying and people being killed, and, people being polarized, and things being polarized, and just people just being upset at, peaceful protests, but then also being upset at violent protests. And it's just like, there's so many reasons to be upset and to be tired. And then to see something like this happen, to see all of these people step in and raise those funds for people that they don't even know when they didn't have to me, it's just a beautiful thing. So toast to Hand in Hand.
Yes, definitely. That's awesome. I want to toast this week to Ebony K. Williams. She is she has a show on Fox, which is interesting. Black people on Fox. And so I thought she was on Breakfast Club this morning, and I was like, oh, this would be interesting. So I was like ready for Charlamagne and them to roast her. But she has a new book called Pretty Powerful. And I think she's a Democrat. So she's on Fox News, and a black woman that's a Democrat, but a lawyer. And when she talked, like, they were like, why Fox? And she said one of the things that was important, because she did trial law for so many years, is she was like, the people that watch Fox News are oftentimes the people that's in the jury box. And she was like, I realized that if I wanted to impact the justice system, one of the things is you need to have representation of black people that humanizes them in environments that the people that we're going to have to interact with when we get to trial will see us differently. And I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. But I think that's an important point that she brought to the table, because we live in a culture where it's kind of like, well, if I don't like your opinion, I can just block you or I can unfollow you, without realizing that doesn't send these people away.
Right.
And sometimes you have to interact with them to make their view, to help their view of to humanize their view of black people.
Right.
And so she just talked about that. And I thought it was a really good interview. I don't know if I would go as far as her on certain points, but I think, she really presented herself well. I was impressed. Like, I started following her after that. And so she talked about, she kind of is really tempered in what she says. But in the case of Charlottesville, the reason they had her on, because she went in on Trump because of the Charlottesville, and she took a lot of flack for that, because, it's Fox News. And just the people that watch Fox News obviously are Trump supporters. And then she talked about the fact that her mom voted for Trump, and her mom is a lifelong Democrat, but she voted for Trump because she thinks all politicians are liars, and she doesn't trust them. So her thing, and she owns a small business, and so she was like, she talked about her
congratulations with that.
She talked about how her and her mom like got into legit, disagreements going back and forth over that. And so I just thought, all things considered, I think she presented herself very well. And when I think of black person on Fox News, I think of Stacey Dash. And so Ebony Williams was a nice breath of fresh air from that. And so, I mean, I'm thinking about buying her book because I thought it was really good. But she even talked about like black women and having male mentors, and how some people only like to be mentored by one gender. And she was like, listen, I want to be mentored by the best. So male, female, it doesn't matter. And, I think that's important because I have male mentors as well as female mentors. And because of society, sometimes people look at a woman that's up and coming and they see an older male mentor and they think something crazy. But I think I really like that she touched on that too.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Ebony Williams. Oh, y'all check out her interview on the Breakfast Club. Let me know what y'all think. So we're going to leave y'all with today's good vibe. Today's good vibe comes from Dan Brenton, and it says, there are two kinds of leaders, the givers and the takers. The takers eat well, but the givers sleep well. I love that.
Yeah, when you said that first, I was just like, yo, that's it. Because I feel like it's, I'm not going to get on a soapbox, but it's very simple, but it says a whole lot.
Because, I mean, you could get all this stuff and you can have all this stuff, but sometimes you won't be able to sleep at night because your conscience won't let you, because the means, the end didn't justify the means.
That's it.
And so make sure whatever you're doing and whatever vision and goal you're trying to achieve, and in your leadership positions, that you have integrity in all you do, and you don't try to do things at all costs, that you consider people, and that you give back and not just be a taker. Because at the end of the day, like Kevin Hart said, you're going to have to see those people on your way down. Everybody you treated wrong, you're going to have to see them on your way down. So be a giver, not a taker.
Hey.
So thank you for listening to another episode of Brunch Culture. We really, really appreciate it. You can catch all our past episodes at brunchculturebc.com. You can follow us on Instagram at brunch_culture, on Twitter at Brunch Culture, on Facebook at facebook.com/Brunch Culture. You can follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're literally everywhere. Just search Brunch Culture. Interact with us on social media using hashtag ChatBC. Also rate us on on Stitcher, on iTunes, on Google Play. We're on all of that stuff. We would love to hear from you. Your rates, your ratings, how you rate us matters to us, I should say. So we appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you for your consistent support. And remember, here at Brunch Culture, everything is up for discussion.